Hello, hello, hello. I hope all is well. I'm a little behind today, but y'all, hey, we here. Okay? We made it. We made it. Please put since we're talking about constructive feedback, if it's, an issue, go ahead, put it in the comments. I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take it. I'm kidding, y'all. How is everybody doing? I'll give some time for everyone to come in as I get Instagram up and running. Make sure to like the live. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure to subscribe. And we will get things going here. Yeah, hopefully everything is a-okay. I think I'm having issues with Instagram again. I don't know. Instagram Live does not work well on my tablet, and it's actually really annoying. Really, really annoying. Okay. So it might be a little finicky on Instagram, but that's okay. That's okay. Again, we are still here. Okay. I think we have it together here. All right, y'all. I am excited for tonight. If this is your first time, my name is Debbie. I am a certified mindfulness coach. This channel is all things mindfulness, mental health. Most of the week, you may be seeing posts from me that are more so meditations. And then every Monday, we do a live discussing a different topic that's voted on. So this week, we voted on receiving critical or constructive feedback, or how to receive critical or constructive feedback. And number 2, it was mindful or intentional pauses. So I'll do that actually with our next live next week. I'll talk about that next week. And then this week we'll talk about critical feedback, or how to receive critical feedback in the best way. So I hope this is helpful. I hope this brings some benefit. Hi, Violet. Welcome in. I hope this brings some kind of benefit. I have about 6 points I'll go through, and specifically in regarding how to receive critical feedback. And then I have about 8 affirmations I want to say that you can take away with you tonight. Especially if you are in the middle of receiving some form of feedback that you're having a tough time receiving. So again, I hope this is helpful. I hope this is a blessing. Make sure to like the live if you're watching. Please make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Again, my name is Debbie. Hi, Galvin. Welcome in. Welcome in. So I hope these points are beneficial. This is also a very interactive live, okay? So make sure to ask questions, talk back to me. Hey, Hiru, welcome in. Make sure to talk back to me and ask any questions. If you need me to repeat anything, let me know. And we can dive in, y'all. I hope this is helpful. And you know what? This is probably is this the end of Q1? Well, Q1 just ended. So you probably are coming up on any type of like feedback, one-on-ones at work, performance reviews, even if it's midway review. So it's actually right on time. But when it comes to receiving critical feedback, it's not even just about work, right? I know when we think about getting feedback or criticism, we're thinking about managers, we're thinking about our peers, we're thinking about a professional setting, but it's not just that. It's also receiving feedback in our personal lives. So when it comes to that, thinking about it in all avenues in all ways, and how to receive feedback from family, how you receive feedback from your partner, how you receive feedback from your friends. Just thinking about all of these things and keeping that into perspective when thinking through these different points. Because I know we're always going to go back to, oh, when I receive feedback from my manager, or when I do a peer review, or even if I am a manager and I get, feedback from one of my subordinates. It's not just that. So think about it in all areas. So we'll start with point number 1, right? Just a second here. Okay, yeah, we got to make sure we get my black game up, because my black game ain't as great, but it's gonna be great tonight. Hi, is it Albofazi? I hope I'm saying that right. Hi, welcome in, welcome in. Okay, so we want to jump into point 1, all right? So number 1, this is actually the hardest part. When you receive critical feedback, don't take it personally, okay? Easier said than done, but a lot of times we run into frustrations when it comes to receiving feedback because we're internalizing what's being said, whether it be because we also feel that way about ourselves and we don't want to admit it, or we feel like it's completely false, which can definitely be true. Or we just don't want to, some of us just don't like confrontation, right? So if we don't like confrontation, receiving feedback can instantly make you feel like you're being confronted or in the midst of some form of confrontation. So just thinking through the part of taking it personally, that's probably where a lot of us stop. Like, nope, I'm gonna take it personally. They're talking about me directly. They got a problem with me. It's an issue. I don't like this person. They don't like me. Like, just all of these things kind of just start going in our minds and in our brains when someone's giving us feedback, to the point where it blinds us in the conversation completely. So the first step is try your best. I know we're all human and it happens, but try your best to not take these things personally. I say that as someone who that takes everything personally. So I'm not just saying it to y'all, I'm saying it to myself. Sometimes I can also take things personally. And this is also whether the feedback is solicited or unsolicited. I think sometimes we also run into difficulties with receiving feedback because we did not solicit or ask for the feedback. And then people just decide that they want to give feedback. And because we didn't solicit it or ask for it, we automatically become offensive. Now, granted, I know that this is easier said than done, but has to be said in order for us to kind of think through and talk through it. Like when people try out for a job and the person who are interviewing you, they say one negative thing, people could take that. Yeah, they could take it really, really hard. Because if you say that and even if it is it really negative or is it really constructive feedback? I think also just the term negative or negativity, I think gets overused sometimes, because just because something is not ideal doesn't necessarily mean that it's meant to be negative. It's more so to help to make you better. So I think it's all about context, and it's all about like what is I don't even want to say intent, because people can intend to be mean, but the feedback could still be helpful. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But just trying to bring down that feeling of offense or being offended, right? Because that in itself can dismiss all of what's about to be said when it comes to the feedback itself. And you can miss an opportunity of growth, or you can miss an opportunity to be better or get better. Okay. So just understanding that the emotions surrounding offense or being offended are tricky. So you could have anger, hurt, frustration, confusion, shock, embarrassment, defensiveness. Like all of those things can come up for you in the midst of you getting or receiving feedback. But it's super duper important to hold on to that. You can always process it, after the conversation, but just to hold on to that in order to move to the next step, which is listen actively and be curious about the feedback that they're receiving. Listen actively and be curious. So number one was don't take it personally. Number two, listen actively and be curious. So get clarity, ask questions, be inquisitive, get more information. Sometimes when feedback comes, it's offensive because it's vague. And when you're able to ask questions, be curious, get more clarity around what they really mean specifically, it will bring, a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times it will bring more um, it would bring more onus to you being able to take in what you need to take in and to remove whatever needs to be removed, right? Because there's sometimes where you'll receive feedback and all of it may not be true, but there's pieces of it that you can take away. So being curious helps with that clarity, helps with that information, and helps to provide more clarity there. Okay, so listen actively, be curious, ask questions, take notes if you need to, because a lot of times when you're in those conversations, it's hard for you to digest in real time. So taking notes, writing things down, so that way you can come back to it and digest it at a later time. Whatever you need to do in those conversations is important. Now, granted, this looks different depending on what type of feedback you're receiving, right? So if you're in a professional setting, it may make more sense for you to, okay, pull out a piece of paper, write down notes. They may even be recording it for you. That may look different versus you having like a conversation with your partner and them giving you feedback about something. Doesn't mean you still can't take notes. Doesn't mean you can't still write things down. Doesn't mean that you can't take some time to digest what's being said. So keep that in mind when thinking about actively listening and being curious about the feedback that you're receiving. Number three, this goes hand in hand with number one, regulate your response. Okay? Regulate, pause before responding if you need to, take a deep breath. Help find ways to regulate your emotions before responding. And if you are angry, if you are frustrated, if you find yourself really full of emotion, be careful in trying to give a quick response as far as like you trying to defend yourself, because that's where arguments ensue. That's where things get a little bit more frustrating and heated. If you find yourself in that space, that's maybe not the best time to defend or to have the conversation back and forth, right? So one thing that pops up for me a lot is that you can't see your reflection in boiling water, right? So if water is boiling, you can't look into it and see yourself. So you have to let the water settle a bit before you're able to self-reflect and then give your response. So it just kind of depends again on the setting. If you're in a setting with your manager and they're giving you feedback and they're asking for real-time response, you may have to tell them like, at this time, I want to just take some time to digest what's been said and like really review and take a look at my numbers and really kind of think through it. And then if there's any feedback that I have on the feedback, then I'll give that to you and make sure that you have that at that moment. I've done that so many times before and it's worked because it's like, I can't talk about it right now. So like finding ways to regulate your response and regulate your emotions, thanking people for their feedback. That's another thing that I do also, especially if it's something that I can't respond to in that moment. I'll just say, okay, well, thank you so much for your feedback. I'll take some time to review this and then we'll circle back if I have any questions or concerns. There's so many ways that you can do that, but making sure to find ways to regulate your response, especially for those situations, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but especially in those situations where you feel like the other person has ill intent, or you feel like the other person is saying the feedback or giving you the feedback because they have their own underlying issues or problems with you specifically. So walking away from it that way puts you in a state to where you didn't snap off or go off or get frustrated or get angry or blow up on the other person, right? Again, I say this as someone who struggles with this at times, okay? I'm not perfect. I say that to you guys just the way I say it and talk to myself, okay? So regulating your response is important. Also, just thinking about too, and I think in the situations where I have made mistakes is because I have done this with people, and sometimes you have to continue to do this cycle with people. And then I think at a certain point, you end up like getting tired of the cycle. But sometimes you just have to take yourself off of the ride completely before you actually go into blow up mode, right? Or before you have surpassed your bar of frustration. Sometimes you have to remove yourself. Those are more extreme situations. But I have found myself to struggle with this the most when I've done the same thing with the same person over and over and over again. So keep that in mind too. Like, how many times have I had a conversation with this person and they're giving me constructive feedback and it's going in the same cycle? So we'll talk about that in a second, but just wanted to pin that there. Okay. So that's how you would handle things within the moment and as you're receiving feedback. So now after you receive the feedback and you walk away from the situation, right? What's next? Number 4, digest the information that you have received, right? Digest it. Be honest with yourself. Is the information that they gave me true? Is the information that they gave me, could it be true? And is the information completely false, right? So the difference between is it true and could it be true is that you may receive feedback and know it for a fact that what they're telling you is right, right? You know for a fact that, okay, yeah, they're right. You know, I did kind of skimp on this, or I did make a mistake here, or I did make a mistake here. That's one thing. The other aspect of it is, could their feedback be true is something that you have not seen within yourself, and it's new information. So could the information that they gave be true even though I haven't seen it, right? So thinking through that. Or is it just completely false and they making stuff up? Okay. So you got to put it in these little buckets. Is it true? Could it be true? Is it completely false? Right? Also, understanding the difference between truth and fact. Truth and fact is not the same thing, or it doesn't. It can be the same thing, but it's not always the same thing. So, truth is subjective, right? Truth is based off of our own perspectives, our own ideologies, our own mindsets, our own thought process. So, our truths can be a bit skewed, where our facts can are objective. They're based on numbers. They're based on evidence, something that you can actually provide some form of evidence behind it, right? Where we get misconstrued between truth and fact, we'll take facts and we will internalize them as our own truths, which creates offense. So I'll say that again. We'll take a fact, we'll internalize it as our own truth, and then that creates the offense. So, for example, my manager said that I made 2 mistakes on my paperwork, right? That's a fact. We know for a fact that that actually happened. We have evidence to show that there's an error or 2 errors on your document or whatever you completed. The truth that can come from that fact that we internalize is that my manager doesn't think I did a good job, which internally may be our own truth, but may not be an actual fact, right? So even though you made 2 mistakes, they may still think that you did a good job, right? But they're going to point out, because it's feedback. They have to tell you, okay, well, yeah, you did a great job or you did a good job, but there were these 2 mistakes. But sometimes when we're receiving feedback, we only hear the 2 mistakes, and then we internalize those 2 mistakes as being, my manager doesn't like me. My manager doesn't think I did a good job. My manager doesn't think I'm good at my job, and my manager wants to fire me. You know what I mean? So we internalize that as a personal truth, when in actuality, the fact was just the fact that you made two mistakes. Okay? So not just understanding and being honest with yourself of what's true, what could be true, and what's completely false, but differentiating between what is a fact and what is truth. Okay. Um, Also, fact could also, when you think about fact and objectively and those things specifically, um, just because something is a fact doesn't mean that it necessarily has to be true in the future. So, for example, you made two mistakes, on a particular paper, or in a particular document, doesn't mean that you're going to have those two things happen the next time. It actually may be perfect the next time. You don't know. So just because it's a fact now doesn't mean that it's a fact forever. Does that make sense? So just keeping these two concepts in mind, that helps to bring down offense, because a lot of times offense is based off of our own perceptions of what's being said. Okay? I know I went through a lot there. Let me know if you have questions. But yeah, I think that's what is most important when thinking about being honest with yourself, and also just eating the meat and throwing the bones away, right? When you eat chicken, you're not eating the whole thing, right? So when you're getting feedback, you may not be taking in the whole thing. You want to take the meat. If you don't like the skin, you may take the skin off. If you love the skin, you might eat the skin and pull that off and eat that first. Or you may just eat the meat, eat the skin, and then throw the bones away, right? So when receiving feedback and you're differentiating between what's honest, what's true, what could be true, and what's false, those false things, those falsehoods are the bones. Throw those out, right? And everything else is something that you can digest and you can eat on, right? Really think through those things and digest those things in a way to where you can actually put them into action. Okay. That was number 4. We got 2 more. Number 5 is consider who is providing the feedback. Okay. Now, there's so many things that and ways I could have went with this, and I wanted to, but I want to keep this objective, right? So when considering who is providing your feedback, first thinking about, is this person someone that you like or respect? That's okay, right? That's fine. Is this someone that you like or respect? Is this somebody that has some type form of authority over you, whether it be a parent or your boss, or your direct supervisor, your lead, whatever, right? So is this a person that you like or you respect, someone that has authority over you? Is this someone that you trust, right? Thinking about all of these things in regards to the feedback that you received. um, the other one is this person an example of the feedback they're providing, right? Is this person an actual testament? Is there any fruit from what they have done in their lives in order for them to provide the feedback that they're providing to you, right? Um, so are they example of the feedback you are providing, or that they are providing, or are they a product of the example that they are that they of the feedback that they're providing? So for example, you have your manager who's providing feedback. They are an example of the feedback that they're providing, right? This is a job, most places. This is a job that they've done. My manager has done my job, so I can say that about my manager, right? So they're most likely have been in that place or in that space, and they are an example of the feedback that they are providing. Now, if someone is a product of that feedback, that's kind of like the best example would be like 360 feedback. So I don't know if anybody has had done 360 feedback, but that's basically where you give your feedback back to your manager. So you may not be the person in charge and you may not be the actual example, but you're a product of the example. So that meaning you're the product of the manager. The other aspect of it is like with a parent, right? Like with my kids, I give them feedback, but because they are a product of me, sometimes they give me feedback as their mom, right? So, and I'll ask for it. I'll say, hey, how do you think that things are going right now? As me, as your parent, is there anything else that I can do for you? Is there anything that I'm not doing for you that you want me to be doing for you? Is there anything that I missed this week that you feel like I should have paid more attention to? So, like thinking through the whether the person is an example of the feedback that they're giving or a product of the example. That makes that gives you more insight. That gives you more context as to why they're providing the feedback the way that they're providing it. So when thinking about are things honest, are things true, are things can things could have been true, right? Or is it completely false? When thinking about the person that's providing you feedback and what state they're in, that makes all the difference a lot of the times as to why they're providing the feedback that they're providing. Okay. Um, and lastly, even if this is someone that you don't particularly like, right? If this isn't somebody that you like, if this isn't someone that you haven't had the best relationship with, is this someone that you feel has ill intent or doesn't have your best interest at heart or doesn't like you or has said they don't like you, someone that you have had arguments with, is the information true or valuable, or are you not receiving it because who's bringing the message? I might have hit hard, y'all. I'm sorry. But it's true. Sometimes the best feedback comes from people that don't like you. I'm gonna sit in that, right? Because there's a lot of times where you think about when you're in arguments and when you're in conflicts, a lot of times things come out that are the absolute truth of what the person is feeling or seeing, but because of the way that they said it or because of who they are, we didn't receive it for that simple reason, especially if it's unsolicited, right? We talked about solicited and unsolicited feedback, even if it's unsolicited. So I know it may be hard to digest, and it's not even about you telling them that, oh, your feedback was right, right? It's not even about that. It's more so of did what they say, or yeah, did what they say to me, like, was that a valuable, actionable feedback that I can really use to better myself and to be a better version of me? I can tell you this right now. There is plenty of people, especially I would say primarily in the professional setting, that has given me feedback that I just couldn't, yeah, I did not like them. Those people, they didn't like me. But their feedback was something that I could apply and I could take action on, right? And even though the relationships didn't end, very well, right? Just thinking about, this is years ago, y'all. This is years ago. Even well, not even years ago. There's situations that happened like I want to say like maybe a year ago, where so I just knew someone did not like me, and they just had no problem letting me know every time I saw them, and it wasn't. They didn't have a reason why, because I would ask why. I'm like, what is the problem? Like, what's the issue? They didn't really have a reason why. It's just, I don't know. I still don't know. But if they had feedback, there may have been feedback that I could have received and that I have received that I was like, I actually could apply that, right? Not necessarily I have to go and tell that person like, oh, thank you so much for the feedback. I did this, I did that. Not necessarily that, but whatever you can, even if it's from very difficult or hard situations and hard and difficult conversations, there's always something that you can pull from it, that you can learn about yourself, that can better yourself. And a lot of times those difficult interactions and those difficult relationships happen to be a mirror for you to better yourself, even though they haven't been the most ideal relationships and situations. So keep that in mind when considering the people that are actually providing the feedback. Because even though it's important, it doesn't mean that there isn't anything that you can take away from people that don't really like you. I know that sounds bad, but it's so true. It's so true. I think it was a story about, I don't know if you guys know the story about Cheryl Underwood. She's a comedian, and she was talking about how she ended up on she was supposed to be working with a group of women, a group of comedians. She had talked about this on a talk show. She had been working with a group of comedians, and she had gotten on a phone call, and the other female comedians, didn't know that she was on the call, and they were talking about her. And she listened in. She stopped and she listened and she listened and she listened and she listened. And then she got off. She never told them that she was on the call. But she said that she took some of the things that they said, even though they were said in a mean way, even though they were talking about her, more gossiping about her versus it being a more critical conversation. And she started taking notes and she wrote down all of the things that she felt like she could actually utilize and take action on, and ended up, putting those things in action and ended up moving her to who she is today. So I say all of that to say is that even though you may have situations where you're receiving feedback from people you don't um, particularly like or want in your life, or don't think that they have your best the best intentions or your best interest at heart, taking out what's true and valuable from whoever it is still beneficial for you. So keep that in mind. So that was number 6. And then lastly, take action. Of course, when it comes to you receiving that valuable feedback, however it was received and from whomever it was received from, put that valuable feedback to action, put it in motion, right? However you feel like it makes the most sense, but put it to work, put it to action, make it work for you. So yeah, we talked through, I think that was how many points? 6 points. So how do you receive critical feedback? Don't take it personally. Listen actively and be curious. Regulate your response. And then after you receive the feedback, digest the information, what is honest and what is true and what is false. Consider who is providing the feedback, and then take that valuable feedback and put it to motion. Those are all of the 6 points. I hope this was helpful, y'all. I hope this brings and sheds some light on how to receive feedback. I do have a few affirmations that you can take away. So feel free to use these affirmations however you wish to. If you want to write them down, if you want to put them in your journal, put them on sticky notes, if you want to recite them, if you want to put them this could be a great affirmations that you can put in with your work stuff. So you're on your laptop, put it in notes in your on your desktop, on your computer, however you feel like you would be able to benefit from it. Feel free to use it. If you want to change the language, please do. This is not end all be all. So feel free to change the notes so that way, or the words, so that way it makes more sense for you, and it's more true to how you would speak. So feel free to do that. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think it's 9. Yeah. So we have 9 affirmations. I'll start with number 1. Number 1 is I am open and welcome. I am open and welcome feedback as a tool for growth. I am open and welcome feedback as a tool for growth. I am open and welcome feedback as a tool for growth. And that's pretty much a lot of what we're talking about with the overview is you have to be open, and not necessarily open as far as vulnerability open. It's more so of being open to hearing and actively listening. Okay. So when I say be open, it's not like, oh, you have to be super duper vulnerable. I'm starting to not even like the word vulnerable, to be honest, because when you look up the word vulnerable, it has the definition of being receptive to danger. And I don't really like that. So so I want to say being more open, or having openness and actively just listening, even if you don't agree, right? Being willing to be curious about what they're talking about versus defensive. That's what I mean by open, or being open. So I am open and welcome feedback as a tool for my growth. Number 2, feedback helps me refine my strengths and improve my weaknesses. Feedback helps me refine my strengths and improve my weaknesses. Feedback helps me refine my strengths and improve my weaknesses. So understanding that feedback isn't just about improving weaknesses, but it's also making you stronger within the strengths that you already have. A lot of times we feel like just because we're strong in an area, it doesn't mean that we still can't grow in that area. And that's so false. That's so false. Just because you're good at something because of your own naturally given talent, how much better can you be when you refine that natural talent? Now you're now you on your way. You're on the way to the top, right? Now you're spectacular. All right? That's my mom's new word. She just says everything spectacular. Spectacular. So yeah, so feedback helps me refine my strengths and improve my weaknesses. You want to do both. You want to refine where you're strong at. You want to get better with where you're strong at, as well as improving your weaknesses. Okay. And I think that's also another way of saying is that you're never too old to learn or never too old to get better. So yeah, keep that in mind when thinking about feedback. Just because you're strong in an area doesn't mean that you can't get better. That's number 2. Number 3, my worth is not defined by criticism, but my willingness to grow. My worth is not defined by criticism, but my willingness to grow. My worth is not defined by criticism, but my willingness to grow. So yes, a lot of times when we receive feedback, we internalize that. We talked about that earlier. We internalize it to the point to where we end up beating ourselves up internally in regards to the feedback that we received, or we have those facts, take those facts and create our own truths, like I was talking about earlier. So keep in mind that you're not, just because you have a constructive criticism or you made an error or you made a mistake, that doesn't define who you are as a person. But the willingness to grow is a part of your character, and that's what defines you. So the fact that you are willing to grow, the fact that you're willing to actively listen, the fact that you're open to the conversation and you're able to regulate your emotions in the conversation, that's more important than the actual criticism in itself. Okay, so my worth is not defined by criticism, but my willingness to grow. Number 4, I have the power to transform feedback into progress and wisdom. I have the power to transform feedback into progress and wisdom. I have the power to transform feedback into progress and wisdom. Don't allow that valuable feedback to fall on rocky ground, right? Don't allow that valuable feedback to go by the wayside, because at the end of the day, it's just there to refine and make you a better version of you. And because, for example, just because it comes from someone that you don't particularly like, right? Or it comes from someone that you don't feel didn't feel like they had good intentions, right? God takes those ill intentions and can turn them around for your own good, right? So if those ill intentions come with valuable feedback, then take it. You don't gotta tell them. You don't gotta be like, oh yeah, by the way, you don't have to do all that. Just take it. Just take it and be like, oh, okay. All right. So and take action, right? So you have the power to transform whatever feedback, that valuable feedback. You have the ability to transform that into progress, into wisdom, into understanding, and into a better version of you. And that's what's most important, regardless of where the feedback is coming from. That is number 4. Number 5, I release the need to be perfect and embrace the journey of improvement. I release the need to be perfect and embrace the journey of improvement. I release the need to be perfect and embrace the journey of improvement. So a lot of times, like we were talking about at the top of the call, a lot of times we struggle with receiving feedback because we are instantly offended and we go into defense mode. And because we're spending so much time in defense, we're not able to really receive what's being said. And the reason why we automatically go into defense is because we are trying our best to be perfect, right? We're trying to do everything perfectly. We're trying to say everything perfectly. We're trying to look perfect. We're trying to do that on a day in and day out, on a daily basis. And when someone's willing or ready to call us out on something, right, that is a attack on our perfection, right? And so when we're getting attacked on our perfection, it's easy for us to get offended and go into defense mode instead of openness and allowing that information to come to us in a way that's helpful and beneficial. So we have to release the need to be perfect. And when it comes to that criticism or that critical feedback, a lot of times, guys, and again, this isn't all the time, but a lot of times it's really people that are really wanting to help us or see us going down the wrong road, right? So just keep that in mind when thinking about when you're receiving feedback. Is this because I want it to be perfect in this space, and because I'm getting this feedback, I'm now all of a sudden not perfect, and then therefore I'm offensive, right? Or I'm offended. So just keep that in mind. I release the need to be perfect and embrace the journey of improvement. I should have numbered these, y'all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, number 6. I trust myself to discern what feedback serves me best. I trust myself to discern what feedback serves me best. I trust myself to discern what feedback serves me best. So it kind of goes back to eating the meat and throwing the bones away, right? You want to be able to discern what is beneficial for you, what feedback is beneficial for you, and what feedback is not. And being able to decipher between the two also will keep your feelings of being offended down, because it's like, okay, I'm not going to take this personal. This is maybe what they see, but I know for a fact that this is false. And maybe they didn't have enough information, or maybe they're going off of this, but they don't see the background of what this actually is. So I'm just going to throw this to the side because this is false. This is based off of the incorrect information. So I trust myself to discern what feedback serves me best. And then number 7, even uncomfortable words can plant the seeds of my next breakthrough. Even uncomfortable words can plant the seeds of my next breakthrough. Even uncomfortable words can plant the seeds of my next breakthrough. So that kind of goes hand in hand with the one before it. I trust myself to discern what feedback serves me best, and even uncomfortable words can plant the seeds of my next breakthrough. So even if the feedback is skewed, right? Even if the feedback isn't 100% where it should be, it can plant the seeds for the improvement that you need. So maybe something that they said sparks an idea or a strategy for you to move forward on. So their feedback may have been incomplete, right? But something they said, a word they said, a phrase they said, or something you were able to pick up on and pull from in order for you to strategize on something that actually was helpful. So even though you're receiving feedback and it's not necessarily the greatest feedback, or it's vague, or it doesn't have a lot of information, of course, inquire, ask questions, right? I talked about earlier, ask for clarity. But even in some of that, something they said can actually catapult you into a space that you wouldn't have been in if they didn't say it. So that's more so, again, going back to listening, actively listening, asking questions, being curious, and asking for clarity in certain areas is what's most important when receiving feedback. So even uncomfortable words can plant the seeds of my next breakthrough. And then number 8, I separate my worth from my work. I can improve without losing myself. I separate my worth from my work. I can improve without losing myself. I separate my worth from my work. I can improve without losing myself. So understanding that even within receiving feedback within your workspace or within hobbies that you're doing, whether it's a side gig, whatever, a business that you own or running or starting, you still want to separate your worth from your work. Just because you may not be doing well in a certain area within your career doesn't mean that you are worth any less. And sometimes we tie our worth to our work. And when we're in that headspace or that mindset, that then takes precedence when we are having or receiving constructive feedback. And so when we're receiving that constructive feedback, we feel like that person is saying negative things about us personally and not negative things. And I say negative in air quotes, negative things about our work, right? Now, granted, there are some instances where your work will reflect you as a person, but you still want to separate the two, because even if you're not working at all, if you get sick, or if you, God forbid, by any means, if you get sick, or if something happens where there's a layoff, God forbid again, if there's anything that happens to where you're not working, then where is your worth, right? That's the first thing that happens. Like, oh, I'm not working, so then I don't have any worth. No, you have worth without the work, right? So separating the two as much as possible is important, because then when you receive feedback, it's easier for you to not take things personally. Now, granted, especially for business owners, a lot of what we do is based off of our own birthing, right? You are birthing something when you're starting a business. So it's easier for you to take things personally in those situations versus you working for someone else. When you're working for someone else, you go in and then you leave. You know, if you leave the company, then that's it. You left the company. That work is not necessarily null and void, but it doesn't matter anymore, right? So just thinking about, you know, those different situations when it comes to if you're owning a business, or if you birthed a project, or if it's something that you have seen from inception to end. A lot of times we have a lot of closeness and worthiness that's attached to that. And the more that you're able to separate yourself from that feeling of this is my worth and not necessarily my work, the easier it will be for you to receive feedback in that specific area. But the more that you attach yourself to it in a space to where this encompasses my worthiness, that's where offense is easy to come and creep in. Whereas if you were to separate it a little bit, you'll be able to look at the situation objectively. Okay? Again, I say that as someone who struggles. Okay? We're not perfect, right? I struggle with it too, especially with my own business and with the things that I do here. Like sometimes I may take things personally because it's me. But then on the other hand, it's like, okay, well, you know, if people don't like it, they don't like it. If people think it's silly, then it's silly. You know, I can't really listen to that, right? So just keep that in mind. And then the last one, I am learning to decode feedback, seeing the wisdom beneath the words. I am learning to decode feedback, seeing the wisdom beneath the words. Last time, I am learning to decode feedback, seeing the wisdom beneath the words. So again, I can't beat this home enough. Regardless of what is said, how it's said, and who said it, there could be, not all the time, there could be wisdom beneath the words. So being able to pull and extract that out and take that as valuable feedback and leaning into it and throwing the rest of it away, that's what's most important when receiving feedback, both professionally and personally. Okay. I hope this was helpful, y'all. I really do. I'll go back through the top. I am open and welcome feedback as a tool for my growth. Feedback helps me refine my strengths and improve my weaknesses. My worth is not defined by criticism, but by my willingness to grow. I have the power to transform feedback into progress and wisdom. I release the need to be perfect and embrace the journey of improvement. I trust myself to discern what feedback serves me best. Even uncomfortable words can plant the seeds of my next breakthrough. I separate my worth from my work. I can improve without losing myself. And I am learning to decode feedback, seeing the wisdom beneath the words. I truly, truly, truly hope that these affirmations are helpful in regarding receiving feedback. Again, if this is your first time, my name is Debbie. I'm a certified mindfulness coach. We do this live every Monday. We talk about different topics. Today was how to receive criticism or constructive criticism or feedback. Next week, we'll be talking about what are we talking about? We're going to be talking about intentional or mindful pauses and how to take intentional pauses throughout the day. So we'll talk about that next week, next Monday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. This live is both on YouTube and Instagram at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, and then TikTok at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I'll be heading over to TikTok now. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. If you want to get the newsletter with all of the affirmations and the links to the videos and things, please go to haveninspired.com and sign up for the newsletter. The newsletter goes out every Wednesday. And yeah, guys, actually, are we going to do it next week? I think I gotta double. Actually, we're gonna skip next week, y'all. My bad. So the 14th. My bad, y'all. The 14th, because next week is my birthday. Okay. I'm not gonna be on nobody's live. I'm gonna be kicking my feet up and I'm gonna be eating cake and I'm gonna be watching TV, eating bonbons, and doing absolutely nothing. Okay. So keep that in mind. So not next Monday, but the 14th. Yeah, I think that's the 14th. Yeah, the next week is the 7th. So yeah, so the 14th we'll be back for intentional pauses. And then I want to say the week of Easter, I will be out of town. So we'll have the 14th and then whatever that Monday is after Easter. So it's gonna be every other week, this month. But yeah, y'all all have a great rest of your night. I really appreciate all of you. Thank you, Hiru. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate all of you. You all have a great rest of your evening. If there's any questions from any of the lives, if you want to get some more insight, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm excited. Getting old. If there's any questions from any of the lives that you guys watch, feel free to email me. You can email me at info@haveninspired.com, info@haveninspired.com. I'll be more than happy to answer questions. I know that I sometimes do receive questions, whether it be through DM or even like some messages on TikTok I'll get every once in a while. So if you do have questions and really want to get a good response from me, just go ahead and shoot me an email at info@haveninspired.com. I'll be able to answer your questions there. Otherwise, y'all all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you soon. No, I don't follow astrology anymore. I used to, but not anymore. But yeah, thank you all. Y'all all have a great rest of your night. I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.